All right, so in this video, we're going to go through sample question 52 from the Society of Actuaries ExamP list of sample questions. You might see that I've already kind of started something out here. I had filmed this before. I wasn't happy with the way I explained a certain part of it, so I'm just refilming it. This is not a terribly difficult question. The question reads, an insurance company sells a 1-year automobile policy with a deductible of 2. The probability that the insured will incur a loss is 0.05. If there is a loss, the probability of a loss amount n is k over n for n that's either 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, right? Discrete amounts. And k is a constant. These are the only possible loss amounts, and no more than one loss can occur. We need to calculate the expected payment for this policy, right? The expected payment by the insurance company. So first thing is when we're given this kind of loss function, right? We want to figure out what that constant is. That's something that should be pretty familiar to you if you've done a decent amount of these practice questions. So let's set that up. So the probability of everything in a sample space should add up to 1, right? That's basic rule in probability. So that would mean for the values 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, adding them all up, I should get 1. So k over 1 plus, this should all equal 1, k over 1 plus k over 2 plus k over 3 plus k over 4 plus k over 5 should all equal 1. And what I can do is factor out a k. 1 plus 1 over 2 plus 1 over 3 plus 1 over 4 plus 1 over 5. And I solve for this, right? Now, I don't have this written out beforehand. I think it's important. I say this a lot. I think it's important for you guys to see my process as I solve these questions. So just give me a moment to actually type in all this into the good old TI-30X, the recommended calculator for this exam. 1 over 4 and then plus 1 over 5. That gets me 1 is equal to k multiplied by 137 over 60. And then, easy enough, we bring that over to the other side, and we find out that 60 over 137 is equal to k. All right, so now we found out what that constant is, and we know that if there is a loss, the probability of a loss is the following. 60 over 137 multiplied by 1 over n, or just an n here in the denominator. Right, that's the probability of a loss. That's the probability of a specific loss if there is one, right? If there is a loss, the probability of the loss amount is the following here, right? Not the probability of a loss. So now it brings me to what I actually already have written here. There's a deductible of 2. Okay, so the payment by the insurance company, which is determined by what I wrote out here, is also determined by the deductible. Since the deductible is 2, any loss amount under 2 would result in a payment of 0. If the loss is over 2, the payment would then be that loss amount, n, minus the deductible, 2. Now we need to find out the expected payment of this policy. So that can be written as the following. The expected value of anything is just the probability of it happening multiplied by just adding up all of the cases. So we get the following. Let me just make sure I'm in frame here. Great. So my expected payment should be equal to, well, the actual payment amount multiplied by the probability of that payment. Now, my payment amount is 0, and that's multiplied by the probability that my loss is under 2. Now, I feel I don't actually need to write this out because that loss is 0. This will all multiply to just being 0. So that's now added to the probability that my loss is 1 multiplied by a loss amount of 1. Now, what is the situation I have a payment of 1? I kept saying loss amount. Well, I have a payment of 1 whenever my loss amount is 3. So I need to multiply by the probability of a loss amount being 3. So that's going to be multiplied by 0.05, right? The probability of having a loss, and then further multiplied by 60 over 137 times 3. Added to a payment of 2, which occurs during a loss amount of 4, multiplied by 0.05 times 60, divided by 137 times 4, added to, finally, a payment of 3, which occurs during a loss amount 5. So that's going to be the probability of having a loss, and then multiplied by the probability, given that I have a loss, having a loss amount of 5, which is 60 over 137 times 5. Now, one thing I kind of noticed as I was writing this is this term 0.5 times 60 over 137n occurs in every term. So I could have actually done that beforehand and used that number, giving me a easier thing to work with. But at the end of the day, I don't think it makes that much of a difference. So I simply just add all these up. And like I said before, you're going to have to give me just a quick moment to actually compute all of these terms. So 0.05 multiplied by the 60 over 137 and then times the 3. Okay. Okay, and that gets me approximately an answer of 0.03138.7, which, since everything's rounded to 3 decimal places in my answer choices, rounding this to 3 decimal places, I get 0.031. Answer choice A. All right, so overall, not too much of a tricky problem. Right? What did this test you on? Expected value. It also tested you on this type of question where they could say, and I've seen this a lot in continuous examples, where they say the PDF is proportional to this equation, right? Which typically means they gave you an equation, you multiply it by a constant, and that's the PDF of your random variable, and you have to integrate in order to find out what that constant is. This is along the same line. First step, we needed to figure out what that constant is to actually get the true loss amount, right? Given that there was a loss. After we got that, and we got that amount by using that very basic rule, the entire sample space should add up to 1. Therefore, if there is a loss, if these are the loss amounts, right, the probability of the loss amount should all add up to 1. Then I found K. Once that's done, it just comes down to finding an expected value, right? That's the second thing this tested on. Now, an expected value is always the specific amount by the probability of getting that amount. After that, it's just algebra. Not even, it's just arithmetic, adding and multiplying stuff. And that gets us to our answer. If there are any questions, throw it down in the comments. I'll answer to the best of my abilities. If you want to see more questions worked out like this, I have a playlist solving these, sample exam questions by the Society of Actuaries. If this video helped you out, hit the like button. That totally helps me out. But other than that, good luck.